tohto štúdia
is to show that when God builds something,
bolo ukázať, že keď Boh niečo stavia,
like an ark,
ako archu,
a temple,
chrám,
and also a present truth movement,
alebo hnutie prítomnej pravdy,
which is a spiritual temple,
čo je duchovným chrámom,
that there's a structure in it.
má to určitú štruktúru.
And Tabo in this study shows that there are certain time periods in building the spiritual temple.
A Tabo ukazuje v tejto štúdii, že pri stavbe duchovného chrámu sú určité časové obdobia.
And I don't want to go into that study.
Ja do toho teraz nepôjdem.
But at least I want to zoom in a little bit on a certain time period.
Ale chcem sa pozrieť na taký detail v určitom časovom období.
What he showed in his study, for example,
Čo on ukázal.
what he shows
Čo on ukazuje,
is that when you start building a temple, when you look at the history of Salomon,
Salomon. Keď sa pozrieme na dejiny Šalamúna,
the building of that temple
stavanie toho chrámu
starts later in the process. Let me say it this way. The building of this temple starts with cutting out of the stones.
Stavba toho chrámu začína vlastne tým, že sú vytesávané kamene.
There are stones cut out of a mountain.
Sú vytesané z vrchu.
And they are made perfect, and they are made in a perfect shape.
Sú vlastne urobené dokonalými.
There's a lot of noise there.
Tam sa deje veľa hluku, keď ich vlastne dávajú do určitého tvaru.
And when a stone is prepared,
a keď je ten kameň už pripravený,
he is brought to the place where they want to build a temple.
Tak je prinesený na to miesto, kde stavajú chrám.
And the only thing that happens there is the stone is put in place.
A vlastne sa vezme ten kameň a je daný presne na to miesto, kam patrí.
So there is no cutting of stones there, there's no noise.
Takže na mieste, kde sa stavia chrám, sa nesekajú tie kamene a není tam hluk.
And what he shows in this study,
čo ukazuje v tom štúdiu,
is that in this time period from 1989 to 9/11,
je, že v čase od 1989 po 9/11
is the period where the stones are cut out.
To je čas, kedy tie kamene sú vytesané z vrchu.
Here in this time period, we can, the Lord opens up certain principles.
V tomto čase Pán Boh otvára určité princípy a zásady.
Prophetic keys.
Prorocké kľúče.
That open up the Bible for us.
Ktoré pre nás otvoria Bibliu.
And these keys or these principles are foundational through the rest of the history.
A to sú vlastne základmi počas celých zostávajúcich dejín.
And this is a time period when these keys or these principles are developed.
A toto je čas, kedy tieto princípy sa vlastne vyvíjajú.
Like line upon line.
Ako línia na líniu.
The 3 plus 1 combination.
3 plus 1 kombinácia.
The two witnesses.
Dvaja svedkovia.
What is the other? The triple application of prophecy.
Trojitá aplikácia proroctva.
And many more.
A iné.
But these become foundational, and they are developed here to be able to develop new truths, so to speak, here, to lay a foundation.
Čiže tieto sa stanú základmi na to, aby potom tie pravdy tu mohli byť položené a dali svoj základ. Alebo aby vlastne tie pravdy mohli byť vyvinuté na základe tých princípov.
So this becomes a foundation.
Toto sú základy.
Of truth.
Pravd.
And then later, when the foundation is laid,
neskôr, keď tie základy sú položené,
this temple is say that in English, is completed
ten chrám je dokončený
with the rest of all the instruments or attributes like walls and a roof.
A vlastne má všetky tie piliere, strechu, steny.
And you enter into a new phase of temple building.
A vlastne sa vchádza do určitej novej fázy stavby chrámu.
If we go, for example, to the history of the temple building of Ezra and Nehemiah,
Keď pozrieme sa na dejiny stavby chrámu za Ezraša a Nehemiáša,
maybe it's good to read it. If you go to Ezra, I think it's Ezra 6.
poďme sa pozrieť do Ezraša 6.
Verse 15.
15. verš.
Someone read that?
Aj tak dokončili ten dom Boží do 3. dňa mesiaca Adara, a to bol 6. rok kráľovania kráľa Dária.
So you can see here, this is the reign of what king?
Ktorý kráľ to bol?
Darius. And where in the where do we find, where's Darius in the line of the three decrees?
Kde je Darius, keď sa pozrieme na ňo ako na líniu troch dekretov?
Druhý.
Second.
The second, yeah.
On je
So-
druhý.
So you can see here in the time period of Darius,
V čase Dária,
which is the second decree,
to je vlastne druhý dekret,
the temple is finished.
ten chrám je dokončený.
So if we make these three decrees three angels,
Takže keď tieto tri dekrety sa na ne pozrieme ako na troch anielov,
then we can say we can see that in the time period of the second angel, the temple is completed.
vidíme, že v čase druhého aniela je chrám dokončený.
We know here, and I say we know, but I don't know if that is true for you. So if there's things that you don't understand or that are not so easy to follow, then people should tell.
Ja teraz tie veci, čo poviem, ak niečo vám z toho nie je jasné alebo tomu nerozumiete, tak sa ozvite, spýtajte sa, prečo je to tak.
Because I say we know,
Lebo ja hovorím, že my vieme,
I don't know if that's actually true.
ale neviem, či aj vy to tak viete, alebo či tomu rozumiete.
As long as I don't hear anything or response or I don't understand, then I just continue.
Ak ja nepočujem nejaké ďalšie komenty, tak budem pokračovať.
Because I would like to explain everything if there's something not clear.
Ak niečo nie je jasné, chcem to vysvetliť.
For example, I said, we know that the first angel arrives in 1989
Takže povedal som, že vieme o tom, že prvý anjel prichádza v 1989.
and is empowered at 9/11.
Je posilnený pri 9.11.
And then the second angel
Druhý anjel
becomes empowered as well.
je tiež posilnený.
So you have the, and this was also I forgot to mention that, the arrival of the second angel.
A tu tiež prišiel aj druhý anjel.
So here we have the history of this first angel,
Toto sú dejiny prvého
and here the second angel.
a druhého anjela.
And in the history, does someone know what we usually mark or what we nowadays mark as this waymark, the empowerment of the second angel?
Viete niekto, čo sem dávame vlastne, aký milník ako posilnenie druhého anjela? This was midnight cry. I think we put 20%.
So, yeah, I was looking for that. Yeah. Is that something that is people are familiar with? 20%?
2014, viete o tom? 2014. Poznáte to?
Yeah. what happened in 2014? Why is 2014 significant?
Prečo 2014 je dôležitý dátum, čo je na ňom zaujímavé?
Tam je ten Esdráž 7-9 odpočítání.
Ezra 7:9.
Exactly. Yeah, that's internally at least the important thing that opened up.
Toto bola dôležitá vec, ktorá bola otvorená v Božom slove.
Out of Ezra 7:9, many new light came.
Vďaka Ezrašovi 7:9 prišlo veľa nového svetla.
And that's what we mark as the empowerment of the second angel.
A preto to nazývame ako zmocnenie druhého anjela.
The work entered into a new phase.
To dielo vstúpilo do novej fázy.
Not only the work, but also the development of truth.
A nielen to dielo, ale aj vývoj pravd.
Where there was a development here in this period that was step by step and kind of easy to follow.
Zatiaľ, čo v tomto období to bolo naozaj krok po kroku a dalo sa to ľahko sledovať a študovať.
From this time period onward, the light exploded.
Od tejto doby to svetlo úplne explodovalo.
There was a lot of light and it followed each other super quick.
A bolo veľmi veľa nového svetla a nasledovalo jedno za druhým.
By which it's difficult to keep up with the light.
A už je veľmi ťažké držať s tým krok.
But you can really see a difference before 2014 and after 2014.
Vidno naozaj v tom rozdiel medzi predtým, ako sa vyvíjalo to svetlo pred 2014 a po 2014.
2014 is also an important waymark.
2014 je aj dôležitý milník.
Because we experienced the first internal shaking in our movement.
Pretože sme zažili prvé triebenie také v rámci hnutia.
In this time period before 2014,
pred 2014,
the discussion was always with the church.
Vlastne vždycky ten ako keby discussion could be like conflict. Ten konflikt vlastne, ktorý sme mali, alebo diskuziu, bola s cirkvou.
It was always the movement against the church and the church against us.
Ako keby
discussion or this conflict.
Cirkev proti hnutiu a argumenty vlastne vzájomne hnutie s cirkvou.
But from 2014 onwards,
ale od 2014
we saw another development taking place.
Sa vlastne dejú iné veci.
Where the conflict started to become an internal issue.
Kedy vlastne tie konflikty prišli dovnútra.
There were some ministries in the movement.
Boli určité služobnosti.
And speakers.
Aj hovorcovia.
And basically in 2014 all speakers left the movement except from Brother Jeff and I think Brother Marco. But everybody that was at that point a speaker in the movement left.
Vlastne Parminder
He was not. Not sure if he was active in 2014. Okay. Yeah.
V podstate okrem brata Jeffa a Marka Baria, right? Marko Baria, všetci ostatní hovorcovia v 2014 odišli z hnutia.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe that's a little too much of a statement, but yeah, maybe. I'm not sure if Parminder was there.
Neviem, myslím, že Parminder nebol taký aktívny v tej dobe.
Most of the speakers left.
Ale väčšina, takmer všetci tí, ktorí vlastne slúžili a hovorili, nesli toto posolstvo, odišli.
Several ministries.
Niekoľko služobností.
And that was based upon doctrinal issues.
Týkalo sa to vlastne otázok učenia.
But also, usually you can see that in these things, it had to do with leadership. They could not really accept leadership.
Ale v týchto triebeniach vždycky zohráva rolu aj vedenie alebo pohľad na vedenie, postoj k vedeniu.
One doctrinal issue you might be familiar with is the topic of public evangelism.
Jedna z tém, ktoré možno poznáte, sa týkali verejnej evangelizácie.
People started to oppose that.
Ľudia začali tomu oponovať.
Have problems with.
Mali s tým problém.
And that became a shaking among other topics.
A toto spôsobilo triebenie, ale aj iné témy.
2014 is an important waymark in many ways.
2014 je dôležitý milník v mnohých ohľadoch.
Ezra 7:9, as you said, was a starting point of a new phase.
Ako si ty povedala, Ezdraž 7.9 bol taký štartujúci bod pre novú fázu.
And in this time period, we can say, and we are still in it, is the finishing of the temple, the phase of finishing the temple.
A teraz v tomto čase, v ktorom sa ešte stále my nachádzame, je fáza dokončovania chrámu.
What I would like to do is to zoom in on this history here.
To, čo ja chcem urobiť, je pozrieť sa zblízka na tieto dejiny.
Because where we find ourselves now in a situation where we start to predict certain things.
Pretože my sa teraz nachádzame v situácii, kedy sme začali vlastne určité veci predpovedať.
And we start to predict time.
Čas.
And then it's always good to look back and say like, hey, how did we end up here?
A toto je veľmi dobré, sa pozrieť naspäť a aby sme vedeli, ako sme vlastne prišli sem.
And can we see the hand of the Lord in this?
Či môžeme v tomto vidieť naozaj Pánovu ruku.
Sister White has this famous quote where she says, oh, it's much cooler here. It's warm here.
Tam vyššie je teplo.
She has this famous quote where she says, in reviewing our past history, having traveled over every step of advance to our present standing, I can say, praise God, as I see what God has wrought, I am filled with astonishment and with confidence in Christ as a leader. We have nothing to fear for the future. You can find this in Last Day Events or something. Do you have one?
Yeah.
This one is from, I found it in Last Day Events also.
I find them now.
Last Day Events 72, it's chapter 5.
Aha, toto je poslední dny planety Zeme, alebo udalosti doby konce. Ak sa pozeráme späť na naše dejiny, toto je udalosti doby konce, alebo poslední dny planety Zeme, 46. strana, a je tu napísané, že je to aj v LS 196. Ak sa pozeráme späť na naše dejiny a analyzujeme každý krok až do terajšej chvíle, môžeme povedať chvála Bohu. Keď vidím, čo Pán vykonal, som naplnená obdivom a stále nadobúdam väčšiu dôveru ku Kristovi ako k Vodcovi. Nemáme sa čoho obávať v budúcnosti, len ak by sme zabudli na to, čo nás učil a cestu, ktorou nás viedol v minulosti.
So here you can see that Sister White looks back into history.
Tu vidíme, že sestra Whiteová pozerá späť do minulosti.
And when she does that, she comes to the conclusion that she praises God.
A ona príde k záveru, že môže len chváliť Boha.
Because she can see, while she looks back, that God has worked a great work.
Pretože ona vidí, že Boh konal veľké veci pre nich.
And for us it's also sometimes important to just look back and to see what actually happened.
A pre nás tiež je dôležité sa pozrieť späť, aby sme vedeli, čo sa stalo.
I'm not saying that this is a complete study in looking back.
Nehovorím, že toto je detailná, kompletná štúdia.
But it's actually very tiny.
Je to taký malý kúsok.
But it's at least interesting to see some structure in how God has revealed truth to us.
Ale je zaujímavé vidieť určitú štruktúru, cez ktorú Pán Boh nám zjavoval pravdy.
In 2014,
V 2014
Ezra 7:9 was opened up at a for the first time opened up at a camp meeting in our movement.
Prvýkrát vlastne, keď bol Ezdraž 7.9 otvorený k nášmu hnutiu na camp meetingu.
And this camp meeting was in Arkansas.
Bolo to v Arkansase.
2014.
2014.
June 22nd.
22. júna.
In Arkansas. And this is the camp meeting where a brother Jeff and a brother Noel, among others, present Ezra 7:9.
Tuto brat Jeff a Noel prezentovali Ezdraša 7.9.
And I remember Jeff speaks on public evangelism.
Jeff hovoril aj o verejnej evangelizácii.
And symbols like the 120 and the 70 are opened up.
A boli vlastne otvorené symboly 120 a 70.
Remember where the 120 and the 70 come from in this time period?
Pamätáte si, odkiaľ to prišlo? 120 a 70?
No to... To ten Ezdraž 7.9 v podstate.
She says it's from Ezra 7.9.
Tam je 120.
4 měsíce.
A
4
potom...
months.
A potom...
Od výjití Babylonu a příchodu výjití.
Yeah, it's like from the structure of Ezra 7.9.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's like the first day of the first month, then the first day of the fifth month is this 120 days.
Od prvého dňa prvého mesiaca po prvý deň 5. mesiaca je 120 dní.
And then until the 10th day of the 7th month
A potom po 10. deň 7. mesiaca
is another 70
je
days.
70.
So there you can see this 120 and 70.
Takže tu sme videli túto štruktúru 120 a 70.
And in this time period, this was this caused the explosion of light, because now people ended up going into the Bible and looking for all these symbols in the Bible.
A toto spôsobilo úplnú explóziu svetla, pretože ľudia išli do Biblie a pozerali sa na všetky symboly.
So they saw that 9/11
A videli, že
is the
9.11
first day of the first month,
ako prvý deň prvého mesiaca
and the midnight cry is the first day of the fifth month,
a polnočné volanie je prvý deň 5. mesiaca.
which is 120 days.
A tam je 120 dní
And then the Sunday law was 70 days.
a po nedeľný zákon je 70 dní.
And then all the 120s, we started to look into all the 120s and to all the 70s and all the first day of the first month and all the first day of the fifth month.
A všade v Biblii, kde sme našli 120 alebo 70 a prvý deň prvého mesiaca a prvý deň 5. mesiaca
And we started to apply them on these
a
lines.
začali sme to aplikovať na tie línie.
As you can see that there is 120, the time period of Noah,
Videli sme, že v čase Noacha bolo 120,
or the 120 people in the upper room at Pentecost,
120 ľudí v hornej miestnosti.
or Aaron, he dies at the first day of the fifth month.
Áron zomrel prvého dňa 5. mesiaca.
All these details we started to apply on the line, and we could build a line on. We could make a story out of it on this line.
Všetky tieto detaily sme začali aplikovať na líniu a dostali sme z toho úplný príbeh v tej línii.
And that caused that we went through the whole Bible, and many light came in a short period of time.
To spôsobilo, že my sme prešli celou Bibliou a strašne veľa svetla v krátkom čase sa objavilo.
And there was so many light
A bolo ho tak veľa,
that in October the same year,
že v oktobri ten istý rok
they decided to organize another camp meeting.
spravili ďalší camp meeting.
To here Ezra 7:9 was introduced, and here the further developments were presented.
Takže tuto bol vlastne Ezdraž 7.9 ako privedený na svetlo a tam boli ďalšie detaily, ktoré sa prezentovali.
And this camp meeting started on October 19.
Začal ten camp meeting 19. oktobra. And June 22nd is the beginning of the camp meeting, or it's the time when Ezra 7.9 was open?
No, I think both are the first day of the camp meeting.
Myslím, že tie dni, čo tam píšem, myslím, že sú to vlastne prvé dni tých camp meetingov.
And so this is both in Arkansas.
Toto je obidve v Arkansase.
And then I remember, even myself, that I was watching these videos.
Ja som pozeral tieto videá, si to pamätám.
that the next camp meeting was in Europe
Ďalší camp meeting bol v Európe.
and was organized in December of the same year.
To bolo v decembri, v tom istom roku.
And that was on December 28th.
28. začínal.
It started on December 28th.
Mhm.
And this was in Germany.
Toto bolo v Nemecku. In Wales, no? Okay, go ahead, sorry.
Yeah, maybe the first camp meeting was in Wales. It was the week before, but this was in Germany, and I perfectly have a reason for this this camp meeting.
Okay, sorry, keep going.
Because one of the things that came out of the light of Ezra 7:9
Jedna z vecí, ktorá vyšla vlastne z Ezdraša 7.9,
was a prediction.
bola predpoveď.
There came a point in time, and it was here,
Prišiel čas, a bolo to tu,
that while traveling on their way to this camp meeting,
zatiaľ čo my sme cestovali na tento camp
they
meeting,
just came from Wales, I remember,
keď sa vlastne oni vracali z Walesu,
and while they had the brethren, the speakers in this time period, well, they had a morning worship,
mali rannú pobožnosť
and they were stuck here actually in Vienna at the airport.
a vlastne boli when you say stuck, it means
Because of delays of airplanes, they needed to book a hotel to stay in a hotel instead of traveling.
vlastne meškali lietadlá a oni nemohli ďalej pokračovať v ceste a museli prespať v hoteli a zostali vlastne vo Viedni neplánovane.
So the next morning in this hotel,
Takže ďalšie ráno v tomto
they had their
hoteli
morning worship,
mali svoju pobožnosť rannú,
and they studied together,
študovali spolu
and there they discovered, there was the discovery of the first prediction in our movement.
a to bolo vlastne odhalenie prvej predpovede v našom hnutí.
And it was the prediction was that because this structure was built in this time period, 9/11, Midnight Cry, Sunday Law.
Táto štruktúra vlastne bola postavená v tomto čase, 9.11, polnočné volanie, nedeľný zákon.
And what they found is that at the Midnight Cry there was a Islamic attack.
There was to be.
There is going to be.
A oni vlastne pochopili, že pri polnočnom volaní má byť útok islamu.
So there was, and then they came to the German camp meeting, and that's where they presented for the first time
A prišli na nemecký camp meeting a o tom hovorili prvýkrát.
the prediction that Islam would strike again, double as hard as 9/11 on the Midnight Cry.
A tá predpoveď bola o tom, že vlastne ten útok toho islamu bude dvakrát silnejší ako bol 9.11.
And since this time period, the topic of prediction became a topic in our movement.
A vlastne od tohto času tá téma predpovedania niečoho sa stala veľmi aktuálna.
We studied the lines of Daniel and Joseph,
Študovali sme línie Daniela a Jozefa,
where they prophesied and predicted certain things
A videli
in
sme-
front of the Pharaoh and the kings.
že oni pred kráľmi a pred faraónom vlastne prorokovali a predpovedali určité veci a udalosti.
This is the first prediction on Islam.
Toto bola prvá predpoveď ohľadne islamu.
Now, if you go 2 years into the future, in December, there's more camp meetings in between, but
Tu boli ešte všelijaké iné camp meetingy, ale o 2 roky neskôr,
December 2016,
december 2016,
And on process to be exact. 17.
yeah, 23
23.
and 17. This is 17. This is the camp meeting in in Holland, in the Netherlands.
Toto bolo v Holandsku.
And this is where... does somebody know what happened in December 2016, the light that came out?
Aké svetlo prišlo vtedy? Daniel 11.
Daniel 11, the new light on Daniel 11 comes out.
Bolo dané svetlo z Daniela 11.
So here the waymarks of Raphia and Panium are born, so to speak.
Tu sa vlastne zrodili tie milníky Raphia a Panium.
So here's an introduction.
To bol taký prvý úvod do tejto
Raphia and Panium.
témy. Raphia a Panium.
It was actually found and presented on the 17th of December
Bolo to prezentované 17. decembra.
and was first presented on the
Prvýkrát.
camp meeting that started on the 23rd.
Uh,
And this topic was first presented on the camp meeting in Holland that started on December
okay,
23rd.
so on the 17th it was presented in Wales, or?
Yeah, this is where Chautu told Jeff about it.
Aha. Čiže 17. decembra vlastne bolo to stretnutie s bratom Chautu a s bratom Jeffom, kde sa o tom rozprávali, a potom 23. brat Jeff to prezentoval v Holandsku.
Okay.
Then we make another jump of 2 years.
Potom sú ďalšie 2 roky.
And now we're in June
V júni
2018. So that was last year.
2018, to je minulý rok.
June.
10. And this is the last day of the camp meeting.
Toto tu je posledný deň camp meetingu.
Because on this day, specifically the 10th,
Presne toho 10.
the topic of time setting was introduced.
sa vlastne otvorila téma určovania času.
It was the last day and Brother Parminder.
Brat Parminder
Introduction of... He introduced... Yeah, sorry, I repeat myself. He introduced time setting.
Vlastne túto tému otvoril ohľadne určovania času.
He introduced to us, or he proposed, that if we want to do predictions,
Povedal, že ak chceme robiť predpovede,
that time should be an element
uh,
in this prediction.
čas by mal byť určitý element tejto predpovede.
And he had his reasons for that. He could show, or he proved that that was actually so.
A ukázal vlastne svoje dôvody, prečo je to tak.
And from this time point on, so he did not do any prediction. He only proposed that time setting may need to become part of our message.
On nedal žiadnu predpoveď, ale on to povedal ako taký návrh, že by sme mali zvážiť určovanie času.
And then, so this is, you know, and then you come into October 2018.
Potom v oktobri 2018,
And this is where, for the first time, I mean, there are. Sorry, again. Since Brother Parminder introduced the topic of time setting,
odkedy brat Parminder otvoril túto tému určovania času,
many people in our movement started to calculate and grab their math machines. And
mnoho ľudí v našom hnutí začalo všeličo počítať
and try to find an application for his proposal.
a snažili sa nájsť aplikáciu na to, čo on povedal.
But one presentation or one proposal from, and I guess you're all in the meantime familiar with the presentation of Sister Tess, was a serious one that everybody started to consider.
Ale vlastne štúdia alebo prezentáciu, ktoré urobila sestra Tess, bola tá, ktorú všetci začali zvažovať.
And she was invited to come to Arkansas to share her thoughts.
Ona bola pozvaná do Arkansasu, aby sa podelila o to svoju štúdiu.
In this time period before, Elder Parminder, he was in Australia.
V tomto čase bol brat Parminder v Austrálii.
Sister Tess is from Australia.
Odtiaľ je vlastne sestra Tess.
And there he heard some things of Sister Tess.
A on tam počul nejaké veci o nej.
And he thought it was interesting.
A he heard things about her studies or about her?
No, sorry, about her studies, yeah.
Nie o nej, ale o tom, čo ona študovala.
But just bits.
Ale on počul z toho len kúsky.
But he thought this might be interesting.
Ale myslel si, že to je zaujímavé.
And I want to know more about it.
A že chcel o tom vedieť viac.
And in the trimester after, he went to Arkansas, Parminder.
A ten semester potom ďalší išiel do Arkansasu.
And he proposed to Elder Jeff, could Sister Tess come to Arkansas as well, so she's able to present her series.
A dal návrh, či by mohla ona prísť do Arkansasu, aby mohla to prezentovať, tú štúdiu.
So we can all evaluate if there's light in it.
Aby sme to mohli zhodnotiť, či je v tom svetlo.
And that's what happened in Arkansas, and she presented, I think, about 12 or 14 presentations
Potom
there.
mala nejakých 12-14 prezentácií.
And this is where she introduced a time.
A tu ona vlastne priviedla čas.
She introduced time. So you have an introduction of time setting, and here time is introduced.
Takže tuto je taký úvod do určovania času a tuto už naozaj bol čas daný.
And she predicts the close of probation for the priests at November the 9th.
A predpovedala záver milosti pre kňazov 9. novembra
2019.
2019.
So by this line I just wanted to show a little how this developed in the last couple of years.
Týmto som chcel ukázať, ako sa to vlastne vyvíjalo za posledných niekoľko rokov.
Ezra 7:9 was the beginning.
Na začiatku bol Ezdraž 7.9,
It opened up a lot of light and an extra waymarks.
ktorý otvoril mnoho svetla a nové milníky.
The midnight cry became an important waymark.
Polnočné volanie sa stalo dôležitým milníkom.
And we started to predict certain events on this waymark.
A začali sme predpovedať určité udalosti okolo tohto milníka.
Then Daniel 11 added more information to this waymark.
A Daniel 11 nám dal ešte viac informácií.
And in the meantime, we introduced midnight also, by the way.
A medzi tým sme vlastne zaviedli aj polnoc.
But that was not enough. And then in 2018, time setting was introduced.
A v 2018 bola prinesená téma určovania času.
Followed by an introduction of the time of the last waymark.
A to bolo následované zavedením toho času toho posledného milníka.
So this in a way is, I found it nice to just go back and look for myself how did this happen, and these are just a few waymarks.
Ja si myslím, že je to také pekné sa takto pozrieť spätne, že ako sa to vyvíjalo.
But the interesting thing is that makes it a little nicer, at least I think.
Zaujímavé to, čo to vlastne robí ešte krajším alebo zaujímavejším.
Is because I purposely put these dates here on the board.
Naschvál som sem dal tieto dátumy.
Is that these camp meetings or these specific days are apart certain time periods.
Tieto camp meetingy vlastne sú od seba v určitých časových periódach.
These two camp meetings are exactly 120 days apart from each other.
Tieto dva sú od seba 120 dní.
Then this next camp meeting where the first prediction was made
Potom ten ďalší, kde bola prvá predpoveď.
is 70 days
Je,
apart from the second camp
je
meeting.
70 dní.
Then when this prediction is made until time is introduced,
Potom vlastne tu, odkiaľ je daná predpoveď, až po zavedenie času,
is exactly 1260 days.
je 126 dní, 1260 dní.
And from here to here
Odtiaľto, potiaľto
is 541 days. And you might think, that's not interesting.
je 541 dní. To si môžem povedať, že
But 541 days is 150, is 150 plus 391.
to je vlastne 150 plus 391.
And these are symbols we know from the Bible.
To sú symboly, ktoré poznáme z Biblie.
And then we have from June 10 till November the 9th
Potom od 10. júna po 9. november
is I forgot this one. October 13. This is the first time the message from Tess is presented in Europe.
in Arkansas, no?
No, she presented in the first week in Arkansas, and then she went to Europe, and there she.
Ten 13. október to je vlastne čas, kedy Tess to prezentovala prvýkrát v Európe.
And then you have 126 and 391.
Tam je 126 a 391.
At the moment, I didn't really find meanings for these numbers,
Ja som na začiatku nerozumel týmto významom tých čísel,
but one thing I can see is that the Lord has directed in even the dates of the camp meetings.
ale to, čo ja vidím, je, že Pán Boh dokonca riadil aj časy tých camp meetingov.
In the time period when the 120 and the 70 were the main symbols, or the most important symbols that were studied,
V čase, keď čísla 120 a 70 boli najdôležitejšie symboly, ktoré sa študovali,
you can see that the camp meetings were actually separated 120 and 70 days, that they were apart from each other.
vidíme, že vlastne tie camp meetingy boli od seba presne toľko dní.
And when the prediction was introduced of Islam,
Keď bola zavedená predpoveď o islame,
it takes 1260 days until June the 10th.
do 10. júna je 1260 dní.
And I was wondering what could this 1260 mean? I mean, it's not persecution or something.
A ja som rozmýšľala, čo to s tým má spoločné, veď to nie je prenasledovanie.
But the prediction was made,
Predpoveď bola spravená,
but it was still covered up, so to speak. It was still dark, if you could understand.
ale stále to bolo zakryté.
But only when the introduction of time setting was introduced gave it light and became it clear what needed to happen.
A až zavedenie toho určovania času tomu dalo určité svetlo.
That's what I could connect to the 1260. That there is that a prediction without time is not really something. So you need these and these combined will bring a perfect prediction.
To je to, čo vlastne to určenie toho času dalo tej predpovedi až úplnosť. Well, I also see that in this time period, actually after 2014, 151 and 126 started to be really studied in a deeper level, and that's actually close 60s type of, you know what I'm talking about?
You mean the which symbols were studied?
126 and
Yeah.
151.
Ah, yeah. Yeah, we had the 126 here, 151.
Oh, okay, I see.
The 126 is here.
Okay.
And here we have the 150. And that's the 150. This is, I would say this is the 150 from the woes. So you have the first woe 150 and the 391 of the second woe. Do you see a 151 here, or you just made?
No, I just mentioned.
Ah, okay, yeah. No, but that's true. 126. Yeah, let me see. Also, something I'm not sure what it means yet, but it's a nice observation. Is this line starts on June 22nd?
Ešte niečo, čo presne ešte neviem, čo znamená, ale tiež je to také zaujímavé pozorovanie, že táto línia začína 22. júna.
And June 22nd was also the Battle of Raphia.
Vtedy sa, like the physical battle, right? Vtedy sa odohrala v dejinách bitka pri Rafi 22. júna.
And the Battle of Pitna.
A bitka pri Pitne.
And then you had that something from Tesla, Operation Barbarossa,
A operácia Barbarossa.
which was in Second World War. Was also on June 22nd. And there are other June 22nds that are important. I haven't found a meaning for it, but
Zatiaľ neviem, aký to má význam, ale má to už tú zaujímavosť.
So this is an introduction to the topic of time setting.
Toto je zavedenie vlastne, alebo úvod do témy ohľadne určovania času.
Many people struggle with it, have
No
questions about it.
Mnoho ľudí má s týmto problém a bojujú s tým.
I guess these questions are here as well.
Myslím, že možno sú aj tu tie otázky.
And if that is so, I would like to hear that. And what are these questions about it?
A ak je to tak, chcel by som tieto otázky vaše počuť.
And then we may be able to talk about it, or I can maybe take away the questions or answer them, or
Aby sme sa mohli o tom porozprávať, alebo aby som mohol nad tým porozmýšľať a potom vám možno poslať odpoveď.
by a talk or by a study.
Skrze štúdiu alebo rozhovor.
But this was my simple introduction to the message of time.
Toto je taký môj jednoduchý úvod do štúdie ohľadne posolstva o čase.
One thing. Can I continue? How long do we continue?
Ako dlho rozprávame?
So 9 o'clock onwards.
I think you can start.
Just one thing, and I think then.
Ešte jednu vec poviem.
One thing that we came to understand in this time period when we started to consider time.
To, čo sme pochopili tu, keď sme začali rozmýšľať o čase,
That time was actually not a new thing to us.
že čas pre nás nebol nejaká nová vec.
We were time setting this whole movement.
My sme to robili už predtým,
But it was until this point always in the past.
ale až do tohto bodu to bolo vždy pozeranie sa späť.
For example, one thing, for example, in regard to the 2520, we are,
Ohľadne 2520,
I assume we are familiar with the this structure?
Myslím, že poznáte túto štruktúru.
Of the 2520.
2520.
This is something we know for years.
Toto už poznáme roky.
More than 10 years or maybe 15 years.
Možno 15 rokov.
And what we see here is that this waymark is 1844.
A my vieme, že tuto je 1844.
And we found that this structure, this chiasm,
A táto chiastická štruktúra,
that this 90,
táto 19,
if you place it also in the other end to finish this chiasm,
keď ju dáme vlastne na ten druhý koniec, aby sme dokončili tú chiastickú štruktúru,
then this chiasm ends in 1863.
tak to skončí v 1863.
And we know that Sister White has quotes where she says we should not time set after 1844, for
A my
example.
vieme, že sestra Whiteová hovorí, že po 1844 už nebude viac času a nemáme určovať čas.
But now here, 180 years after this time period, we find this chiasm.
A po vyše 100 rokoch potom, jak sa to udialo, tak tu nájdeme v tom, že to má chiastickú štruktúru.
But it were actually the Millerites that should have found this. And they were able to find it. They had all the information.
A Milleriti to mali nájsť, oni to mohli objaviť.
Here in 1856,
1856.
it was Hiram Edson that introduced the 2520, his study on the 2520.
Heijer vlastne ukázal svoju štúdiu o 2520
to James White.
Jamesovi Whiteovi.
And there, Adventists, or the leaders at least, they were able to find this structure. They had all the information to find this structure.
To vedenie vlastne malo možnosť nájsť túto štruktúru.
And they could have been able to predict 1863
A mohli predpovedať 1863
based upon this structure
na základe tej štruktúry.
and to connect events with it or
Spojiť s tým udalosti
to make it an important waymark.
a urobiť to dôležitým milníkom.
They didn't,
Ale nestalo sa.
and therefore the Lord opened it up only almost 200 years later.
A Pán Boh to otvoril až takmer 200 rokov neskôr.
But here you can see that there is time after 1844.
Ale my vidíme, že po 1844 ešte je čas.
And then you have 1989,
Potom je tu 89.
which is 126 years apart from 1863.
ktorý vieme, že je vlastne 126 rokov od 1863.
This is also time.
To je tiež čas.
And this is also something we have been teaching for a long time already.
Toto je niečo, čo sme už dávno učili.
But because it was all in the past, we weren't really bothered about it.
Pretože to bolo pozeranie sa späť do minulosti, tak sme sa toho nebáli.
We didn't really call it time setting
Nevolali sme to určovanie času.
because we were not really predicting something.
My sme nič nepredpovedali.
But time has always been an element in our message.
Ale súčasťou nášho posolstva bol čas aj predtým, alebo vždy bol.
There is time after 1844, that's what we found.
My sme zistili, že ešte je čas po 1844.
And the only new thing that has been introduced here
Jediná nová vec, ktorá tu bola uvedená,
is the first time we start to introduce time into the future.
je to, že sme začali ukazovať čas do budúcnosti.
And now people start to ask questions or start to have doubts or start to question the
Ľudia
topic of time.
začínajú mať pochybnosti a pýtajú sa mnoho otázok.
And one of the first arguments against it
Jeden z prvých argumentov proti tomu
is to say that time has always been part of our message.
je povedať to, že čas bol vždy súčasťou nášho posolstva.
Although it might seem a little different because it was in the past,
Možno, že to znie trošku inak, lebo to bolo v minulosti, alebo do minulosti.
that doesn't mean that there is time after 1844.
It doesn't.
It does.
Ale
What did I say? it doesn't mean that there is no.
Mhm.
Let me say it different. There is time after 1844.
Vidíme, že ešte stále je čas po 1844.
And that's what we found years ago.
To sme zistili už pred niekoľkými rokmi.
And somehow we were able to deal with, we could mix that with Sister White, because she says there's no time after 1844.
Mohli sme to spojiť s citátmi sestry Whiteovej. Aj ona hovorí, že už nie je času po 1844.
Nobody really had problems with that.
S tým nikto nemal problém.
But now only when we start going into the future, it starts to become a question.
Ale keď to robíme do budúcnosti, ľudia začínajú pochybovať.
And I understand, we all understand.
A ja tomu rozumiem.
But it's something to look into.
Ale je to niečo, na čo sa treba pozrieť.
Why are we doing this? Why are we allowed to do this?
Prečo toto vlastne robíme a prečo to môžeme robiť?
Why are we allowed to do this?
Alebo toto.
I mean, this is not something we did, this is just something we found. I mean, these 19 years is just something you find in history, it's just a fact.
Toto nie je niečo, čo my sme vymysleli, to sme proste len našli, to sú fakty v dejinách.
And this 126 is just something
Aj toto, to je tiež len niečo, čo sme našli.
you find after the fact.
Čo sa vlastne ukázalo potom, ako sa to
But it
udialo.
introduces the thought that there is, in some way, time after 1844.
Ale ukazuje nám to myšlienku, že v určitom zmysle ešte je čas po 1844.
And then we have to start to bring that in line with the quotes from Sister White.
A začali sme znova zvažovať tie citáty od sestry Whiteovej.
To explain why we are actually allowed to do what we're doing.
Hľadáme vysvetlenie, prečo môžeme robiť to, čo robíme.
And maybe that's something we can start focusing on tomorrow, if that is something you would like to study.
A o tom budeme hovoriť zajtra, ak je to téma, ktorú by ste chceli študovať.
Are there...
To totiž Ellen Whiteová do konference nějak mluvila o tom, že vlastně už je jen velmi krátký čas. A potom, když vlastně proběhla ta konference v roce 1888 a odmítli to poselství, tak pak já nevím vůbec kam to datovat. Bylo to možná už před tím příchodem 1900, tak ona řekla, Pán Ježíš přijde za... Do té doby, do konference říkala, že přijde velmi brzy a potom později po té konferenci říkala, přijde za velmi dlouho. A já myslím, že to bude souviset s tím, že máme jako možnost určovat, protože ona vlastně potom změnila ten pohled na ten příchod Pána Ježíše Krista.
She says she thinks this time setting is connected to because Ellen White was expecting Jesus to come in her lifetime.
Mm-hmm.
And until the conference of 1888, she was always saying it's very close, it's very near. But after this conference, she actually changed everything and she said no, he's gonna delay, he's coming for many years.
Mm-hmm.
And she says this time setting has to do with this.
In a sense, yeah, I think I agree.
Ja myslím, že s tebou súhlasím.
I think in Sister White, in her writings, how do you say? She's always been, she always stayed a Millerite.
Ona vždy zostala mileritkou.
Someone who expected the Lord very soon.
Niekým, kto očakával Pána veľmi skoro.
And what the Adventists never realized,
A čo si adventisti nikdy neuvedomili,
including Sister White,
vrátane sestry Whiteovej,
already after 1863,
že po 63.
they kind of went in the wrong direction.
Že už začali ísť vlastne zlým smerom.
But she became a Millerite. She continued to be a Millerite in her writing.
Ale ona zostala mileritkou vo spisoch.
But yeah, I agree, and I think I would like to maybe go into detail tomorrow, maybe.
Ja súhlasím a zajtra by som chcel hovoriť o viacerých detailoch v tomto.
Because that still, I can imagine, doesn't fully answer all questions, because she writes it. Anyway, let's continue that tomorrow.
Poďme pokračovať v tom zajtra.
Other comments, feedback, questions?
I have bad notes on the camera.
Yeah, that's right. Lord, dear Heavenly Father,
Drahý nebeský Otče,
we want to thank you for this first hour we could study together.
ďakujeme Ti za túto prvú hodinu, čo sme mohli spolu študovať.
Thank you that you brought us together here
Ďakujeme, že si nás priviedol sem spolu.
and that we were able to look back into history a little bit,
Že sme sa mohli pozrieť na dejiny
to what you have done in the recent past.
a čo si urobil v minulosti.
We don't understand everything,
Všetkému nerozumieme,
but we can see that there is a pattern,
ale vidíme, že je určitý v tom vzorec,
that your hand has even directed the camp meetings in this movement,
vidíme, že Ty si dokonca viedol camp meetingy v tomto hnutí.
that they are separated from each other in certain time periods,
Sú od seba vzdialené v určitých časových intervaloch,
just to show us that you are there and that you have directed all this.
aby si nám ukázal, že Ty si v tom a si to viedol.
Lord, there are many other questions we would like to answer this week.
Chceme odpovedať aj ďalšie otázky
We would like to continue tomorrow.
a chceme zajtra pokračovať.
We pray that you will be with us as we go to bed this evening.
Modlíme sa, aby si zostal s nami, keď pôjdeme teraz do postele.
Watch over this house.
Prosím, ochraňuj tento dom.
Give us a good night, please.
Daj nám dobrú noc
And wake us up tomorrow refreshed again.
a znova nás zobuď zajtra.
Lord, forgive us of our sins of today if there's things that were not according to your will.
Prosíme, odpusti nám naše hriechy, ktoré neboli v súlade s tvojou vôľou.
Help us to bring everything into order
A pomôž, aby sme mohli všetko si dať do poriadku.
so that we can come before you again tomorrow morning when we start studying.
Aby sme mohli prísť pred teba, pred tvoju tvár, keď prídeme zajtra študovať.
In Jesus' name we ask.
V mene Ježiša.
Amen.
Amen.